At 30, Adewale was a thriving businessman. Freshly returned from America with an MBA, his ventures were flourishing. He was handsome, wealthy, and well-educated, everything a man could hope for, except he lacked someone to share his life with. In a modest part of town lived Kemi, a beautiful 20-year-old and the eldest of 3 siblings. Her father worked as a driver, barely making ends meet, while her mother sold bread on the streets to support the family. Despite their struggles, Kemi remained optimistic about a brighter future. Kemi worked as a receptionist at a small hotel. Her beauty and kind demeanor caught the eye of many, but her life took an unexpected turn when Adewale walked into the hotel one day. The moment he saw her, he was captivated by her charm and gentle grace. Adewale couldn't help but strike up a conversation. What began as casual small talk quickly blossomed into a deep romance. When Kemi's parents learned about the relationship, they were thrilled. To them, Adewale was the answer to their prayers, a chance for Kemi to escape poverty. Adewale was not only wealthy but also charming and generous. He showered Kemi with gifts, took her to elegant restaurants, and introduced her to a world she had only imagined. He listened to her stories, laughed with her, and made her feel special. To Kemi, who had grown up with little, Adewale felt like a prince straight out of a fairy tale. Adewale fell deeply in love with Kemi's simplicity, kindness, and devotion to her family despite their struggles. She never asked for anything but appreciated everything. Her sincerity and innocence won his heart, and he realized she was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. After a year of courtship, Adewale proposed and Kemi eagerly accepted. Their wedding was a grand celebration with lavish decorations, a large feast, and hundreds of guests. Kemi's parents felt immense pride and relief, believing their daughter was now set for a secure and comfortable future. As years went by, Adewale's business continued to thrive, and he and Kemi were blessed with 2 daughters. But joy turned to pain when complications during the birth of their second child left Kemi unable to have more children. It was a heartbreaking moment, particularly for Kemi, who had always dreamed of having a large family. However, Adewale reassured her that his love for her would never waver. But this was only the start of the challenges they would face. Kemi's younger sister, Dami, soon entered their lives, bringing new energy to their home. At 19, Dami was even more stunning than Kemi, with dark, flawless skin and striking curves that turned heads everywhere. She had been living with an uncle in Abuja but moved in with Kemi and Adewale in Lagos to pursue her university dreams and a better future. When Adewale first saw Dami, he felt something unexpected, an attraction that made him uneasy. Her beauty and presence stirred feelings he couldn't control. Despite his love for Kemi, he found himself inexplicably drawn to Dami. Over time, Adewale's feelings for Dami grew stronger. He knew it was wrong, she was his wife's sister, but he couldn't suppress the emotions consuming him. He would catch himself staring at her, noticing her laugh, her walk, every little thing about her. The harder he tried to resist, the more powerful his feelings became. Kemi began to sense something was off. She noticed how Adewale's attention lingered on Dami and how he seemed distracted whenever she was around. Though she couldn't pinpoint the problem, an unsettling feeling grew in her heart. Meanwhile, Dami, oblivious to the turmoil in Adewale's mind, focused on her studies and adjusting to life in Lagos. She admired Adewale as a supportive brother figure, never suspecting he saw her differently. One afternoon, Adewale came home early and found Dami alone in the house. The atmosphere felt heavy and Dami grew uneasy as he sat down beside her. His serious expression only added to her discomfort. "Dami, I like you," Adewale said quietly, his voice low and conflicted. "I want us to have an adult relationship." Dami froze, her heart racing in shock. "What? That's not right. You're married to my sister." Adewale nodded, guilt flickering in his eyes, but something darker lingered beneath. "I know it's wrong, but I've made mistakes before. I want you, Dami, even if it's not right." Dami was overwhelmed with emotions. Fear, confusion, and something else she didn't want to admit. "I like you too, but as a brother. And I could never betray my sister. This can't happen." Her voice was steady but trembling. "I'm going to tell Kemi about this." That evening, Kemi returned home with their 2 daughters, unaware of the chaos looming over her family. Dami, as usual, helped her sister care for the children, feeding, bathing, and tucking them into bed. But the weight of what had happened earlier was too much for her to bear. As night fell, Dami decided she couldn't keep Adewale's behavior a secret. She sat Kemi down and with a trembling voice revealed everything. Adewale made advances toward me, Dami said, her eyes filled with guilt and fear. He said things no brother-in-law should ever say. Kemi felt her world shatter in an instant. Her heart was crushed by the betrayal. She tried to stay composed but the pain overwhelmed her. Later that night as she lay in bed beside her husband, her thoughts raced. She knew she had to confront him. Adewale, Kemi began, her voice shaking with emotion, Dami told me what you said to her. How could you even think of doing such a thing? Adewale didn't flinch. His tone was calm and resolute. Kemi, I want Dami to be my second wife. I'll take care of both of you and you'll never lack anything. This way we can keep the family together. Kemi stared at him in disbelief. She couldn't believe her husband was serious. He wasn't even trying to deny it. Instead he was asking her to accept something unimaginable, bringing her own sister into their marriage. No, Adewale, this is wrong. Kemi cried, tears streaming down her face. How can you even suggest such a thing? You're supposed to love me and be faithful to me. Their argument was intense and filled with pain. Kemi couldn't understand how the man she loved could betray her trust so deeply. The following day the tension between them was unbearable. They barely spoke and the silence was thick with anger and sorrow. 2 days later Adewale raised the issue again as they sat in their living room, this time with a more calculated tone, as though he had carefully thought through his next words. Kemi, you know I always wanted 4 children before we got married. I still want more children and I need to make that happen. Due to the complications from your last pregnancy, you are unable to have more children. So you need to decide. Should I marry a stranger as my second wife or should we keep it within the family with Dami? This way we can all come to an understanding as a family. Kemi felt like her world had been turned upside down. She couldn't believe Adewale was asking her to make such an impossible choice. The love she thought she had was now twisted into something unrecognizable, leaving her feeling lost and betrayed. The tension in the room was suffocating as Kemi and Adewale argued about his shocking suggestion. Their voices were rising when the doorbell suddenly rang, interrupting them. Kemi, her heart racing, went to open the door. Standing there was Dami. Adewale's face brightened when he saw her. "Ah, Dami, we were just talking about you," he said, smiling in a way that sent chills down Kemi's spine. "Come and join us." Dami hesitated, unsure of what was happening. She glanced at Kemi, who looked stunned and hurt, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Reluctantly, Dami entered and sat down, the atmosphere heavy with unease. Adewale spoke in a disturbingly calm tone. "Dami, I want you to be my second wife. We can all live together as one big family. I'll take care of you and Kemi and everyone will be happy." Dami's eyes widened in disbelief. She turned to Kemi, searching for some kind of explanation, but Kemi sat frozen, too distressed to speak. Overwhelmed, Dami excused herself and went to her room, needing to escape the unbearable situation. Later that night, Dami called Kemi into her room. She needed to understand what was happening. "Kemi, what's going on?" Dami asked, her voice shaking. Kemi sighed deeply, the weight of the situation evident in her tired posture. She told Dami everything Adewale had said, each painful word. When she was done, Dami asked, "How do you feel about all this?" Tears filled Kemi's eyes. "I'm heartbroken, Dami. I don't know what to do. But if it has to be someone, I'd rather it be you than a stranger." Dami was stunned. Marrying Adewale had never crossed her mind. "Do you want me to think about it?" she asked softly. Kemi nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Adewale has been a good husband until now. I could share him with you, but I couldn't bear it if he brought someone else into our family." Dami's heart ached for her sister. She hugged Kemi tightly, both of them crying over the impossible situation they were in. "I'll think about it," Dami whispered. After a week of soul-searching and considering Kemi's feelings, Dami made a difficult decision. She agreed to marry Adewale as his second wife. When she told him, Adewale was overjoyed, but neither she nor Kemi felt happy about it. They were simply trying to hold their family together, sacrificing their own emotions for the sake of unity. Dami and Kemi promised each other to live peacefully and support one another. They resolved to love Adewale unconditionally and focus on building a harmonious home. To keep things simple, they planned a quiet family wedding, hoping it would ease the emotional weight of their situation. The wedding was small and private, attended by only close family and friends. Life moved on, and within 3 years, Dami gave birth to 2 healthy boys. Despite the unconventional circumstances, the sisters remained close, supporting each other and keeping their bond strong. But just as it seemed they had found stability, tragedy struck. A month after Dami gave birth to her second son, Adewale was involved in a fatal car accident. The news devastated the family, leaving both sisters reeling from the loss of the man they both loved. His death was a deep wound, one that would take time to heal. After Adewale's burial, Kemi and Dami leaned on each other for strength. They continued to live together, honoring their promise to maintain love, respect, and unity. They inherited Adewale's wealth and business, managing it with the dedication he had shown. Neither of them remarried. Instead, they focused on raising their 4 children in a home filled with love and harmony. With their financial stability, Kemi and Dami decided to explore the world. They traveled together and provided their children with the best education and experiences. Though they missed Adewale, they chose to focus on the future, finding joy in their family and the life they had built. The moral of the story: he forced his wife to bring her sister as second wife, is that strength and resilience come from unity, love, and making difficult sacrifices for family. Despite the challenges and unconventional circumstances, Kemi and Dami prioritized their bond and supported each other, turning their struggles into a foundation for strength and love.